Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Confessions. I was reheating soup when my phone buzzed the first time. Then again. And again. 3 rapid texts from my wife. That wasn't normal. Hey, I'll be late tonight. Huge traffic. Totally gridlocked. Don't wait up, yellow heart. No punctuation. No voice note. Just clipped sentences like she didn't want me to call. I did anyway. Straight to voicemail. Then I checked her location. Now here's the thing. She was supposed to be heading to a client dinner 2 cities over. I expected to see her somewhere along the highway. But she wasn't moving. She was parked. For 43 minutes. On a quiet residential street. In front of an apartment I didn't recognize. I thought maybe something happened. Maybe she had a breakdown. Maybe she got hurt. Maybe she was passed out in her car. So I messaged again. Everything okay? No answer. I stared at her little blinking dot on the map. It didn't move. I zoomed in, recognized the building, and then I remembered where I'd seen it before. A Christmas party. The guy in the leather blazer. Too many rings on one hand. Her coworker, Miles. He was married, and his wife had a baby 4 months ago. I didn't even hesitate. I sent her this. Don't worry. I'll forward your location to his wife. Should help. She read it. 15 seconds passed. Then came her reply. Wait, please don't. I didn't answer. I just sat there, staring at the soup boiling over, smelling something burn. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room, lights off, just the hallway lamp glowing dim across the hardwood floor. The soup dried into a crust on the stove. My phone was face up on the table, still showing her message. Please don't. I didn't reply. I didn't forward the location either. Not yet. I needed to see what she would do. Would she come home with a lie? Would she confess? At 9:58 p.m., headlights swept across the wall. Her car pulled into the driveway like nothing was wrong. And for a moment, I actually considered pretending I was asleep. I was that pathetic, that tired, that full of dread. But then the door opened, and I saw her silhouette in the hallway. She didn't look panicked or guilty. She was smiling, holding her purse like she'd just come back from a spa day. Her heels clicked gently on the floor as she stepped inside. Hey, babe, she said like it was any other night. You won't believe the traffic. She stopped. She saw me. I hadn't moved. I was still sitting in the chair, elbows on my knees, face pale and phone still glowing with her last text. And that smile, her mask, slipped off so fast I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You're home early, I said. She blinked. I told you I'd be late. Traffic. Remember? I nodded slowly. I guess I was just confused. Your phone showed you parked for over an hour. On Camden Street. Her pupils dilated. That was the first tell. She opened her mouth, then closed it. A pause. Half a breath. And then the performance began. She gasped, stepped forward, hands raised. Elliot. Wait. Let me explain. Is his wife nice? I interrupted. My voice was dead calm. Flat. No yelling. Just exhaustion with a sharp edge. She froze. I tilted my phone toward her. Still glowing. Because I almost texted her tonight. His wife. You know. The one with the baby. And that's when it happened. She didn't deny it. She didn't lie. She didn't scream or cry or collapse in some Oscar-worthy drama. She just lowered her eyes, like a kid caught with a stolen toy. I think that hurt more than anything, because it meant she'd accepted this moment. She knew it would come eventually, and she'd already decided it was worth it. She stood in the doorway like she wasn't sure whether to come in or run. I could see her fingers twitching on the strap of her purse. The silence between us was heavy, awkward, like a third person watching. I didn't speak. I didn't move. I wanted to see what she'd say when there were no lies left to grab onto. Finally, she exhaled. It wasn't planned, she whispered. That made me laugh. Actually laugh. That's what she was going with? I looked at her like she was a stranger wearing my wife's face. She stepped forward. It just happened. I wasn't looking for anything. Wrong apartment then? I said flatly. Accidentally parked outside the same building 3 times last week too? She flinched. I could see her calculating what I knew, trying to stay ahead of it. You checked my location that often? She asked, and there it was, the deflection, the spin. No, I said, just tonight. But I remembered the address. From that work party. Miles' place. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Not a single excuse. Just a faint tremble in her jaw. Then, finally, she sat down across from me. Not next to me. Across. Like it was an interrogation. I didn't sleep with him at first, she mumbled. It was just texts. We joked. Then we got close. I was lonely. You were so careful, I warned. My voice didn't rise, but my eyes were sharp. If you're about to make this my fault, I'll call his wife right now. Her mouth clamped shut. She nodded almost imperceptibly, and then she started crying. Not sobbing, not breaking down. Just these quiet tears she wiped away like she was embarrassed by them, like she didn't want me to see her pain. That's when I realized. She hadn't cried for me in a long time, maybe ever. I don't want to lose you, she said finally. It was a mistake. A mistake, I said slowly. That's what you're calling it? A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was a decision. Over and over. You had to type in the code to his building. That's not muscle memory, that's intent. She didn't argue, and I didn't feel victorious. I just felt hollow, like someone had scooped something out of me and replaced it with cold air. I stood up. My legs were shaking. I didn't even know where I was walking. Maybe to the kitchen, maybe out the door. Her voice stopped me. Elliot, what are you going to do? I turned back to her, blinking slowly. I don't know yet, I said. But I'm pretty sure whatever it is, you won't see it coming. I didn't leave the house that night. I didn't even sleep in another room. I slept beside her, both of us staring at the ceiling, breathing like strangers who happened to share a bed. Her back was to me the whole night, and mine was to the future. Something inside me had changed. Not broken, not cracked, shifted, like a curtain had been pulled back. I saw her differently now. Not as my wife, not even as my betrayer. Just as a person who had crossed a line, and would lie about it if I didn't trap her with the truth. The next morning I acted normal. Quiet, tired, but not hostile. She took it as a win. She made coffee and joked about needing a long shower. She left early, probably to text him, maybe to delete things. So I started collecting. It's funny what you find when you look with purpose. On her laptop, I found a password saved for a second Instagram account. Private. Empty profile picture. The messages weren't hard to uncover. They never are if you guess the name of the dog she had at 6. Their conversations weren't even clever. They were messy. Raw. One of the messages from him just said, "If he ever finds out, it's over." Too late. Her smartwatch was synced to a cloud account. I pulled up location logs. 6 visits in the last month to that same condo. And a rideshare receipt 2 weeks ago that said she got dropped off there at 2:14 a.m. The night she told me she stayed over at Marcy's after a wine night. Kept it all. Screenshotted, printed, timestamped. No drama. No confrontation. Then I messaged someone I hadn't talked to in a long time. Her name's Claire. She's Miles' wife. We'd met at that office party maybe twice in total. She always seemed quiet, like she didn't quite fit in with the rest of the corporate crowd. While everyone else was laughing and posing for selfies, she stood by the food table, carefully peeling grapes for their infant daughter. I still had her number saved under Claire Miles in my phone. I never deleted it because I'm the kind of guy who doesn't delete anything. I don't move on fast. I hoard memories like files I'll never open again. But this time I opened something, and I sent Claire just 5 words. "Do you have a minute?" She replied in under 2. "Sure. What's going on?" I stared at the message for a while, my thumbs hovering over the keyboard. I knew that once I pressed send, there was no turning back. No more pretending. No more working through it. No more coffee mugs and quiet mornings. I exhaled, and I started typing. Claire didn't ask for screenshots. She didn't ask for details. When I sent her the message, a short, cautious version of the truth, she simply responded with, "I knew something was off." No exclamation marks. No hysteria. Just resignation. Like she'd been holding her breath for weeks and my message let her finally exhale. We talked for over an hour. Not about revenge. Not about lawyers. Just about how two people we trusted had turned our lives into a background affair. Claire told me Miles had been distant since their daughter was born. That he'd started working late, forgetting daycare pickups, sleeping on the couch some nights with the excuse of early meetings. It all lined up. The same timeline. The same lies with different packaging. I didn't cry. Neither did she. It was colder than that, like comparing notes after an earthquake. After we hung up, I sat there for a while, alone. The house was quiet, too quiet. I realized how much of the noise in our home had been artificial. Playlists, podcast voices, clinking mugs, her exaggerated laughter from phone calls with friends. None of it was real. Not anymore. And yet, I didn't want to leave. Not yet. So I made a plan. A very quiet one. That night, I was already in bed when she came home. She was humming under her breath like a teenager sneaking in from curfew. Except this teenager was wearing perfume I didn't recognize and had a faint smear of lipstick on her wrist. She paused when she saw I was awake. "I thought you'd be asleep," she said casually. Like she hadn't spent the last few hours God knows where. I just smiled. "Long day." She nodded. She wasn't afraid. She thought she had me tamed, controlled, softened by loyalty. What she didn't know was that while she was out, I'd made a copy of her laptop drive. I'd exported her entire message history from both her accounts. I'd even downloaded security footage from the building she'd been visiting. Claire sent me the clips from the lobby cameras. There she was, clear as daylight, pressing the elevator button with a wine bottle in her hand. The next morning, I sent a single email. Not to a lawyer. Not to her. To HR. You see, Miles and my wife work for the same firm. And that firm has a strict code of conduct when it comes to interoffice relationships, especially ones that involve dishonesty, non-disclosure, and a supervisor-subordinate dynamic. I didn't send it with glee. I didn't imagine her crying or begging. But I also didn't hesitate. She gambled everything. I was just letting her see the cards. The response from HR came faster than I expected. Less than 24 hours after I submitted the report, I received a formal follow-up. Polite, cold, thanking me for the anonymous documentation and assuring me that they would initiate a preliminary review. I knew what that meant. They couldn't ignore it. I hadn't just included screenshots of messages. I timestamped everything: rideshare records, building entry logs, the company policy PDF with violations highlighted. I'd done their job for them. She didn't find out right away. That part was oddly satisfying. Watching her go through her morning routine like nothing had changed. Same perfume, same passive-aggressive jokes, same fake smile. But I knew something she didn't. Her world had already shifted underneath her. It was just a matter of time before she noticed the floor cracking. It happened on a Thursday. I was in the kitchen when I heard her voice in the hallway. Low, tense. She was on the phone with someone from the office. I heard her say things like, "What do you mean complaint?" And, "That's not possible, this is personal." Not. And then she paused. A very long pause. That was the moment she realized the company already had evidence. She didn't speak to me that night. Not a single word. She walked around the house like it was unfamiliar territory. Opened and closed drawers for no reason. Forgot to feed the cat. At one point, she stood in the doorway and stared at me for a full 10 seconds, like she was trying to figure out if I had done it. She never asked, because deep down she knew. The next morning, she got an official notice. Administrative leave, pending investigation. She paced for hours, called people I'd never heard of, and kept asking them the same question. Can they actually fire me for this? I didn't interrupt. I just watched. Later that night, she finally broke the silence between us. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She sat across from me, pale and trembling, and said, "You ruined everything. I tilted my head, pretending to think. No, I said softly. You ruined everything. I just gave the truth a microphone. She didn't respond. That was the moment she stopped calling me babe. She started calling me Elliot again. Like I was a stranger who'd walked into her house with a mirror she didn't want to look into. And I wasn't done yet. She thought the worst was over. After her suspension from work, she started trying to rewind things. She cooked dinner. She folded my laundry. She even left a gift on my desk. A framed photo of us from 2 summers ago, back when we still smiled without rehearsing it. For 2 days straight, she pretended we were okay. But she never once apologized. Not sincerely. Not completely. Just these half-hearted phrases like, we both made mistakes. Or, I wasn't myself. She kept dancing around it, hoping I'd move on if she acted like nothing happened. But I wasn't looking for an apology anymore. I was building my exit. I waited until she went out for groceries. Then I packed. Not all my things, just the essentials. Clothes, laptop, documents, the fireproof box with my dad's old watch, and the deed to the land my grandfather left me. I didn't slam any drawers. I didn't make a scene. I moved like a shadow. Before I left, I wrote her a letter. Not dramatic, not cruel, just honest. It said, you betrayed someone who would have done anything for you. Not because you were unhappy, but because you thought I'd always be there, quietly forgiving, endlessly waiting. You thought I was too soft to leave. You were wrong. Don't contact me. Not for closure. Not for comfort. Especially not out of guilt. This chapter is over. And no, there won't be a next one. I left it on her pillow. No argument. No final confrontation. Just silence. By the time she came back, I was already halfway across the city, staying with a friend who offered me their guest room before I even asked. They didn't need an explanation. One look at my face, and they said, take as long as you need. That night, I didn't check my phone once. No curiosity. No regrets. Just air in my lungs that didn't feel heavy anymore. And for the first time in months, I slept without dreaming about her. I didn't block her. A lot of people say you have to, but I didn't. I left the door open, not because I wanted her to walk through it, but because I wanted to prove to myself that I no longer cared if she did. She texted, of course. First it was confusion, then anger, then a kind of desperate nostalgia. She sent old photos, half-written apologies, a voice memo where she cried for 11 straight seconds before hanging up. I never replied. I didn't need to. It's strange. The day I left, I expected to feel broken. But the truth is, I felt more me than I had in years. The silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I started doing little things I'd forgotten I liked. Morning walks, writing in notebooks instead of typing everything, cooking for one and enjoying it. I'm not pretending it didn't hurt. It did. Still does sometimes. Healing isn't a switch. It's a series of quiet, invisible victories. Like the first night you fall asleep without checking your phone. Or the moment you realize you didn't think about them once all day. I'm not looking for revenge. Or justice. Or even closure. What I found was something better. Self-respect. Turns out you don't have to win the argument or prove you were right. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is leave with your head up and never look back. If you've ever had to walk away from someone who didn't value you, I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments below. You never know who you might inspire.